are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Excited I found the button to join in.
Yeah. Let's get a couple of introductory questions while we wait for everybody else to get in here. What has been this stay at home looked like for you in the last couple of weeks?
At first it was really stressful, and I was worried about staying home so much, which is ironic because when I'm out on the road, I'm ready to go home. But I've now gotten into a routine where I'm getting out and playing more, able to work out 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and that's really helped, just kind of finding a routine.
So I know when we talked back at Finley, one of your favorite events that you're really looking forward to was the Hawaii swing. Is that going to still be played at all, or are they going to have to push that to next year?
We're not sure right now. Obviously, the first date's out. That was a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But I think we're just really waiting to see when we start back, and they'll try to put as many events as they can in the end of the season. And we'll see. Definitely looking forward to Hawaii in 2021, though. My husband's been really talking about it all the time.
For those tuning in, live here with Katherine Perry Hamski, LPGA Tour member, former PKBGT player, and also played at UNC Chapel Hill. So again, Katherine, thank you for tuning in. Let's get right down into the questions.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I've heard you say a couple of times since we met. I started back in January, so that's our relationship has only been a couple of months in. And reading your interviews, when a college coach, back from your experience, a college coach would come, and you said it's important to see them, hit 72 perfect shots, but instead how you react to a certain shot. What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. It's just there's so much variance in golf. You're not going to hit a perfect shot every time. You're not going to hit a perfect shot a lot of the times. And I think coaches would rather see how you handle adverse rounds, how you handle that shot OB or that chunk chip or whatever it may be, because you're going to have those situations in college golf. And they want to know how you can handle it and respond. If you can make something out of that bad shot or bad bounce or whatever it may be, they're looking for a player who can persevere through it.
How do you handle, or how did you, I should say, handle playing in front of college coaches back on the PKB circuit?
I've been trying to think about that, and it's kind of hard to remember all of it. It's not that long ago, but I think I more notice my nerves now than I did back then. But I think for players who are going through it now, just trying to ignore that the coach is there really and focus on their game. And you can hit good shots and just hitting the fairway, hitting the green, however you can simplify it to make it as easy as possible. And just knowing that your attitude means more than the shots you're hitting. And they know it's a growth process. So you're not going to hit these perfect shots every time.
Right. How did the PKBGT prepare you for college golf?
It's a great question. The tour has grown so much since even I played. And it was just a great place to gain friendships and learn how to play golf. When I first started out, there weren't that many tournaments for girls, and the fields were really small. So when I had the chance to get on the PKB and the fields were 30 girls or 40 girls, that was amazing to have that many players to go up against and try to see how I stood against them and how I could get better going into college.
Back in 2009, you qualified for the U.S. Women's Open, had a pretty special caddy. Was that technically your guys' first date?
That's a funny one. We started dating mid-college, but he's been such a help even back in 2009 to now, just with all life changes, and handling me on the golf course is not super easy. So it's great to have him out there and stick by me, especially on the tough days, tough years, and through it all.
What's the best advice he's given you out on the golf course?
He's given me a lot of good advice. I just don't always follow it. Sometimes I like to choose my own path, which is not great. But I think one of the best moments that I can remember, I was in a playoff for one of the qualifying spots for the Kia Classic last year, and it was maybe the second hole. And we were trying to figure out if the wind was in or if it was downwind or what was going on. I was playing against 3 other girls. And he was like, no, you gotta club down. It's not into the wind. We're going to be fine. So I hit this shot, and it ends up on the green, I don't know, 20 feet, 30 feet. And all the girls in my group airmailed it because they were feeling the wind in like I was. So if I had gone with my play, I would have airmailed it, and who knows what happened. But thankfully made the par there.
you had a big couple of weeks or 60 days, I should say, back when you got married and then ended up getting your card. A lot of the interviews and that's a couple of the articles that I read while doing some research to make myself a little more prepared for this, it talked about how you were playing with an attitude, well, if I don't make it, I'm just going to retire the sticks. How did you, really handle that stress and handling just playing out there having fun?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really was ready to give it up. It wasn't the dream I had hoped for out on this Metro Tour. I missed home a lot. I missed my husband, my family. So I was fully prepared. If this isn't what happens, then I'll work it out. I'll figure out something. God's in control, and it's going to work out no matter. And it was just really, it relieved a lot of stress and a lot of pressure that I was putting on myself. And so it all came together, and that was amazing. I'm so glad it did. I'm glad to be playing on the LPGA Tour and having these chances to travel around the world with my husband. So I'm very thankful for that.
It is a grind out on the Metro Tour, and you just talked about it. What was your favorite event you played?
There were really good ones. I think that the one that's still going on right now is the Longwood event, the IOA Classic, I believe, Florida. And we just had some great hosts down there. The Lou family, they've got 3 kids, and it's a really great week off the course, and it's a good golf course too. So it's a lot of fun to go there. Mostly all the tournaments that we love, we usually have really good hosts.
And what do you mean by host?
We stay with host families when we're on the road, so they take us in for the week. They feed us, they let us hang out at their house, and they really become like second families all over. And we've been fortunate to have some really great ones over the years.
And is that kind of relationships stayed with you to the LPGA as well? Do they have hosts for you, or are you staying in hotels?
Staying with host families as well.
Okay.
They have a lot out there. And we just met some really great friends through it all. I can just think of a few off the top of my mind. Indianapolis, we have a great family there, and down in Florida, just all over. Just mostly being able to go back to a house after the round and know that we can relax and hang out with fun people and just be in a good environment makes a huge difference.
Go back in a couple of months ago, you were down in Australia, how much you were looking forward to it. We were talking, and then on the range, you hurt your back.
Yep.
Talk about how you had, how did you handle that recovery process? Because for me, I hurt my hip in high school, and it killed me to not be able to out there, playing in events. So how did you handle keeping yourself away from getting re-injured?
I think it was really hard. First of all, not playing that second round. Because I feel like when you're an athlete, there's so much of you in your mind. You're like, I don't want to be a quitter. I got to persevere. I got to play through this. But we knew if I kept playing, I was probably going to re-injure it more and not be able to play the next week. So thankfully, we have physical therapists out on tour, and I've got my guys back at Par for Success that were helping me out. Just working through trying to loosen it all up and be able to swing. But I didn't realize the full impact of it until I got back home and had a lesson with Robert, and he was like, you are swinging like an old lady, you got to pull it together here. And so we kind of figured out that I was still having that pain, and I was afraid to swing through. So it took a while to get back on track after that.
Anybody watching, if you guys ever have any questions, just go ahead and slide it on in and we'll get to it. So you had to talk about Robert. You've been with Robert for now almost 9 years, a full 9 years or something like that.
I think it's been almost 12 now.
12, okay. So yeah. My math is a little off. Has that been real crucial for you as a player, in your developmental process? Or how many coaches have you had, I should say, to start off this question?
Seriously, he's been my one big coach. I've had a couple others before him, but he's been so crucial in every level of the game for me. From high school golf, he helped me get a scholarship for college, to the school I absolutely dreamed of. And then just growing through college to prepare for the Metro Tour, and then Metro Tour to LPGA. He's been there through all the ups and downs, the rounds where I was just bawling after, and then the rounds where I won, things like that. His reactions are always the same, and you always felt like he was proud of you no matter what. Just keep persevering through, and we'll get through the hard times and enjoy the good times.
And he just asked, when are you going to fire him? Saw that.
You're not supposed to be watching, Robert.
So talking, this is more for advice for any parents that are watching. A lot of people that I knew growing up, if they had one bad tournament round, their parents would kick them out of the current coach and find a new one. That I always thought that was bad for my friends that would end up happening because I've had one coach since I was 12, and I think we have a lot of similarities with that. But is that something you think you would recommend, or is it a case by case?
I think just thinking about my friend Maya Schechter, she has had different coaches, and that's her style. And my style is, I really like how Robert and I work together, and I think I don't understand things when they're said by different coaches, even if it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You just have to have a good communication between coach and player, and that's key. But I don't think one bad round you change a coach. I think there's a process, and every coach has their process, whether it's 3-month long, 6-month long, year long. You just have to have that good communication and trust with your coach. And I think that's key.
Nutrition wise, what's in your bag during a round?
Great question. Nutrition is probably my worst thing with golf. I just love snack foods. We try to keep some beef jerky in the bag, banana, apple, some nuts, the usual staples, I think. It's just I just kind of forget to eat sometimes, so I have to be encouraged to snack and take a sip of water, and Kevin's really good about that.
Here's a question from MK. What do you focus on to be as consistent as you can be from week to week?
It's a great question. I think sticking to routines is key. Working through not the same drills, but making sure I like to work on my putting stroke on this mat. And I know it's going through the tees, and I know it's coming off my face correctly. And I think working on those fundamentals really helps. It's when I leave Robert for like 3 weeks, I notice my setup gets off, and that changes everything. So knowing what your body does and being able to go back to your normal setup, I think is key too.
So I'm going to kind of run off of that question. When you find yourself going away from that incorrect setup, what do you do in round and then post round to try to correct that as quickly as possible?
That's a great question. In round is kind of tougher.
Right.
I know my tendencies when I start to hit it left or right, and trying to remember back to the lessons and what we've done in the past. I know when I get really nervous, my shoulders kind of go up and I get really tight. So Robert's had me do some breathing exercises and figure out a way to relax those shoulders so I can still turn through. I think that's really helpful. And then when I'm on the road, we send Robert a video. So many videos. Yeah.
Does Kevin do any, I'm sure he's at a lot of your lessons. Is he able to kind of correct some things during the round as well?
He is, yeah. He pays attention to a lot of that stuff. I just understand things the way Robert says them. So sometimes Kevin will say the same thing, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. And even when I know my problems, it's sometimes hard to fix it mid-round. So Sometimes it's just damage control and figure it out afterwards.
Who's the most friendly person you have met out on the LPGA Tour so far?
There's so many nice players. I tell this story a lot, but it really stuck with me. My first tournament was the Pierce Bahamas Classic, and I went into dining, and there's Arya Jutarnagar. And doesn't know me. She's the number one player in the world at the time. Pouring a cup of soup, and I'm right behind her, and she turns to me and she's like, "Would you like some?" And she just hands over the bowl right there. And it's not that much, but in fact, it's like, oh my gosh, number one player, and just so kind. And I think there have been a lot of really nice people out there. Fun to play, of course, especially in tough times.
You've coached the Linville Cup a handful of times. What does that event mean for you? For those who don't know, it's a regional event, so the top order of merit players from all 7, now 8 for next year's of all regional series meet in a team competition. A mentor coach and then a golf professional coach, so someone in the business world or working in the golf industry. KP has been a mentor coach before.
I love that event. I think it's a great event for the girls to come out and not have so much pressure on how they play. To know that it's a time to work your game, but to also just learn things about life and to learn from players to have been through it, or women in business who have gone through what you've gone through. I think it's really just a fun weekend.
Thanks to everybody who's tuning in. We've got another exciting one here on Thursday. Leslie Bonsi, who works for Active Eating Advice, it's her own company out of Pittsburgh. She is also the sports dietitian for the Kansas City Chiefs. She'll be on and we'll have a great conversation about sports nutrition. And that'll be at 5:30 on this Thursday, right here on Instagram. What is the best time management advice you can give for a rising high school senior?
It's a great question. I've always personally struggled with time management. I'm a big time procrastinator with schoolwork. I was a study the night before, figure it out. And that really hit me in college. I think for now, my friend was joking. She was saying, play golf when it's light and do homework when it's dark. I know homework loads have gotten a lot tougher even in the last 10 years. But just making sure you setting priorities, I think. If golf's number one, focus on golf. If academics is number one, I think it should be. Then put the academics first and make time for golf after. But for me, I always cared so much about it, and I wanted to play well, and I wanted to get better, that I put the social to the side. And if I had extra time for social activities, then I went for it. But otherwise, it was just golf and academics and figure it out from there.
What is it like trying to get sponsors for your career on the LPGA Tour?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think everyone thinks professional golf and their sponsors are going to come flying at you.
Right.
For most people, most girls out here, it's usually through people they know, local people, through connections that you've already made in your life. It's not going to be some big corporation that says, hey, let me sponsor you. You kind of have to go out and work a little bit more for it. But I'm thankful to have the sponsors that I do have, and they're helping me go through this time and make it through other seasons when I've been struggling. I'm really thankful for it.
You are able to play and practice right now, right, at your club?
Yes, thankfully so. Able to get off course. No driving range, but that's
right.
all right.
So what are you doing right now when you're out on the golf course? Trying to keep yourself sharp as you possibly can.
I think right now I'm just trying to play a lot. I'm getting a little bit caught up in swing and technique and everything like that. So just trying to get out there with the swing I have and go for it and see what happens. Been working with Robert on some swing changes, which have been really great. Good setup change last week. And I think when I go out to Hope Valley Country Club, they have really great greens out there. So I work on putting and chipping more those days. But just trying to stay sharp and figure out a way to improve.
What does your pre-tournament practice routine look like? So you say you've got an 8:45 tournament tee time out on the LPGA Tour. When do you arrive? What are you trying to do to get yourself, as best prepared as you possibly can?
Yeah, great question. Now with LPGA, I usually get there an hour and a half ahead of time. We go in for breakfast and do some stretching. I try to get to the putting green about an hour before tee time.
Okay.
And I'll putt for 15 minutes. Usually I hit some putts down the rail or through the tees or whatever it may be. Make sure I'm starting on mine. Then work on some speed, then work on the short putts. I do that for 15 to 20 minutes, and then head to the driving range. I've started hitting like every club in the bag. I used to only hit like 4 of them, but I prefer to see each shot now. Yeah, then get to the tee about 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time. That's about it.
When you're marking your golf ball, is there a certain Sharpie that you always use, or is there any superstition that you have to follow before you tee off?
No big superstition with that, but thankfully Kevin does the line on my ball, so I can line it up the right way. I kind of mess it up every time I do it. But yeah, so he takes care of me. I'm really spoiled. But no superstition.
If any of our girls are actually interested in possibly trying to caddy for, say, someone on the Symetra Tour, if they've got an event at their local club, what's the best route of trying to get the best, not the best, but how can they get the most out of attending or trying to get a volunteer position or caddy position now?
I think with Symetra Tour, they usually have like a caddy sign up with the golf course, and then players communicate with the golf course to find a caddy. And I think that's a great opportunity. I'm thinking about the Charlotte event right now and how cool that would have been as a rising golfer to have a chance to play and watch someone out there. I think the big thing if they do caddy is just to observe and keep up, basically. Just to not talk too much, talk enough, and it's kind of a balance there. But just, I think as many events as you could go to and watch and learn from players who have been through it, the better.
You've now sort of moved into what I would consider an advisory role when you're doing some on-course lessons with Robert. I've seen that he's had other people practicing with you. Is that something you were really enjoying to do? Is now trying to mentor the next generation of PKBGT alumni and hopefully follow your shoes?
Yeah, I think I was really nervous about it at first because I wasn't sure how much knowledge I have. And, I'm still learning and I'm still trying to get to the top of my game and to be the best that I can be. And so sometimes I have those moments where I'm like, am I qualified to do this? And then I remember that I've been through what they've been through and I'm still going through what they're going through. I still have the days where I don't play well and the tournaments that don't go well. And so I think it actually helped me figure stuff out as I go as well. I can see how they react to shots and think, oh, do I react the same way? Because from the outside, it's a lot easier to figure out than when you're just yourself. It's been a joy to do it.
What's been the main difference? This is my last question before we open it up for anyone in the audience, between college golf to professional golf that you've seen.
That's a great question. I think there's a lot of differences with college golf. You're trying so hard to balance your college academics, your strength training, your golf and social life that you end up not spending as playing golf, I think. And so when I turned professional, just being able to control my own practice schedule to get out there every day, you're more in control of your schedule. And so that makes that time management a little bit more. Lay around all day, you got to get out there. But I think that was a big thing, being able to play a lot more. I've enjoyed that. And yeah, time management, that's the key. Still trying to figure it out.
So when you guys are traveling, the same thing, when you guys are traveling, are you doing airports or driving? What's your favorite to do from tournament to tournament?
Symmetric Tour was a lot, and that was fun to see parts of the country that I would never see otherwise. There are some beautiful places here. Right now with LPGA, we fly. It's just the shorter 4-day tournaments instead of 3. Pro-Ams on Wednesday, parties Tuesday nights. So it's just a lot busier. So it's much easier to fly. And if we get started this year, I'm not sure what we'll do. We'll probably try to drive whenever we can, just to, airports and crowded places, but just see how it goes. Favorite on-course snack? I think beef jerky. It helps me, feel satisfied right away. And I love salty over sweet any day. So just a good bag of beef jerky.
There's another one. Who's your motivation?
Motivation. That's a great question. Well, one of my idols growing up, and she still is Julie Inkster. Mostly, she was such a great golfer and seems like such a nice person. I've met her, and she is super nice. But she was also a mom on tour, and I always knew that I wanted to be a mom above everything else. So to see how she handled that and still play golf has just been an inspiration.
All right, well, that'll end it here for this Tuesday after we answer this last one. How do you prep the morning of a tournament? So go for, how did you prep in junior golf, since we already talked about how you prepped in college and pros?
Yeah, junior golf, I think I got there about an hour ahead of time. That was always the usual. I think at that time, I probably went to the driving range first, practiced half the time driving range, and then went to the putting green. Not much stretching there. That's changed. My body doesn't move as well as it used to. But yeah, just half and half. Make sure you get it all in. Some chipping in there too. Great question. Did you incorporate physical training into your routine when you were a junior golfer? I did not. I think it's a great thing now that juniors are able to get into working out now. Think of the girls who come out to Par for Success and what a head start they have going into college. I remember my first workouts. I could hardly move after. I was so sore. And that affects your golf and everything. Just to have the chance to gain that strength now and not put it off for later is really exciting.
Last one there for you, Catherine. When did you know that you wanted to play college and pro golf?
Another good question. I think I was about 15 or so when I thought, hey, I can play professionally. And I think the biggest time was when I made it to the U.S. Open and got to play with the pros and kind of see a little bit of what they go through and what I needed to work on to get there. I think that was a huge motivation. I always probably from the time I was 13, I knew I wanted to play college golf, and I'm a Tar Heel, born and bred, so always wanted to go to UNC.